Hey guys, it's Jessica with Southern Sparrow, and we're gonna do one of y'all's favorite videos, which is help me pick a hand. So the best way to get really fast at picking your hand is to just do a mock Charleston, what I call solo maj, at home. And all you're gonna do, you don't need to set up the whole table. I will sometimes just sit in bed watching a show and have my tile bag in front of me, and I'll just draw it out of there. But you will need your card, and you will need your tiles. And you're going to deal yourself 13 or 14 tiles if you want to pretend that you're the east seat, and you're going to just get organized. So I've gone ahead and gotten organized. You know your girl's long-winded, so I just went ahead and organized so this video is not 1,000 years long. But here's what we have. We have a single flower, we have a west, a pair of souths, we have 3 dot, a pair of 8 dots, a soap, 8 bam, a pair of 9 bams, a green dragon. We have a 5 crack and a pair of red dragons. So what you want to do first is you're going to look on your card and you're going to try to choose a section. And sometimes at the deal, you may have 1 or 2 sections that you're thinking about. And so when I'm looking at this hand, I'm thinking, oh, well, I have 3 wins. Maybe I'm gonna play in wins. I also have at least 1 dragon and a pair in 1 suit. At least 1 dragon in every suit. I kind of like that I'm collecting a little bit of dragons. I have some numbers that are in multiple suits. Maybe I'm looking at any like numbers. So kind of the 2 sections, I don't see a lot of case for a consecutive number, a consecutive run, because I do have this 8 and 9 counting up, but I don't really have any other numbers that would lead up to that, and I don't really have that across a bunch of suits. So I'm gonna eliminate that section. I'm gonna be looking maybe at this any like numbers if I start to get more of these 8s in different suits. And I kind of actually like a few of the hands that are in wins and dragons. I have dragons in every suit. So there is this little hand that has the flowers, a little baby run in any suit, and then all of the dragons in every suit. And then there's also another one down here that's kind of a fun hand that has a news in it and then 2 suits of dragons. So I want to hold my dragons. I'm going to hold dragons in every suit. I'm going to hold my wins, but I'm only going to hold enough to make the news because I don't see a lot of argument. Yes, I have this pair of south, and if I was looking at my like numbers, maybe I'd look over here, but remember that that hand is odd numbers if you're pairing it with the norths and the south. So I don't have the wins that would be together where it would be paired north and south, and then that would look for an odd number. And if this was a pair of easts, I might consider that with the even numbers of the 8s, but doesn't really work for what I have here. So what I'm going to hold on to is I'm obviously going to hold my flower. That works across multiple sections. I'm going to hold my west and my south in case I get a north and an east and I can make that news. I'm going to get rid of one of that south. I'm going to get rid of the 3 dot. It doesn't really go with anything else that I have on my rack. I'm actually probably going to break up these 9s. They don't really go with anything else, so I'm happy to get rid of that. And I'm happy to get rid of this 5 crack. So what I'm holding on to here are my flower, my west and south in case I can make that news. I've got the 8s in 2 suits. Maybe I'll get some more 8s across another suit. I've got dragons in every suit. And I'm holding on to this 9. And the reason I'm holding on to that is this one line that we were talking about that has that little baby run with a bunch of dragons. Maybe I get the 7 bam and then I can do 7, 8, 9 and then my dragons across all 3 suits. So this is what I'm gonna hold for my first Charleston pass. And the way you practice this at home is pick 3, throw them off to the side and grab 3. So I've laid out a little parking lot here of passes. So this is going to be considered my first right. So I'm gonna pick up 3. Let's see what we have. So we have a 7 dot, we have a 6 dot, and we have a red dragon in this first pass. So that's interesting. We were kind of holding dragons. I kind of like that I have dragons in multiple suits. I really like it now that I have a pung of the red dragon. Now I do have this 6 and 7, which counts into this 8. I could maybe look at, oh, should I go back and look at that consecutive run? But I think where I actually want to be is in this wins and dragons section because I do have these dragons. So I will continue to hold the 8s. There are a couple of hands that require the dragons in those any like numbers, but I'm gonna go ahead and just choose to get rid of this. And this may not be the choice that you make if it were your hand, but this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna pass these 3. I'm just gonna throw them over here. I'm gonna grab my next 3 here. So let's see what we have. Oh, well, no one would pass us a flower. So we're gonna get rid of this. It's not a rule that you can't pass flowers, but it is a good rule of thumb. And the reason that we don't pass flowers during the Charleston is there are flowers in every single section. And so it gives you a way to possibly pivot to a new hand. And it also is something, it's very likely that your opponent is seeking flowers. So we don't want to pass those. So I don't think my opponent would have passed me this. I'm just going to throw it and I'm going to grab something else from my pile here. So now we see we have a 4 dot, a 4 bam, and a 9 crack in this draw. I'm going to get rid of all of those. We're going to pass it. We're going to take, this would be our first left. So let's see what we have. We have an 8 crack, a 3 crack, and a 3 crack. Interesting. Okay, so now we have the 8s in all 3 suits. We still have our dragons. We have, that gives us kind of 2 options within the any like numbers section, right? The top option requires a single dragon in 2 suits and then all of the like numbers. And the bottom hand, which is that concealed hand, requires a pung of dragons. Well, we have a pung of the red dragons, and then it would require the 8s in all of those suits. So that's an interesting option there. Kind of 2 hands is an option. I'm thinking that that's probably the option I'll go for, but I'm going to pass these. So I'm going to pass, and I would probably, if this were a live game, break up my 3 cracks. But because it's not a real game and I'm just trying to get to a hand, I'm just going to get rid of those. And I'm going to take my next draw. So here's what we have. Let's see. We have a 1 crack. Let me move this so you guys can see what we've got going. We have a 1 crack. We got an 8 bam and a 6 bam. Well, we know we want this. And now I think we're going to give up hope that we're going to make that news. So we're going to be willing to get rid of our wins. We're still holding our flower. We're holding all of our 8s. We're going to hold on to our dragons until we decide which hand we're going to go for. I'm going to break the winds, and I'm going to say we're going to pass this 1 crack, the 6 bam, and the west wind. So we're going into our second over, and we're going to see what we got. Let's see. We got, well, this is illegal. The National Mahjong League rules say you cannot pass a joker during the Charleston. So if you're doing this at home, throw that joker, grab a different tile. We're going to call it a 2 dot that was passed to us. We have a soap, and we have this 5 bam. We're going to hold on to that soap. We're going to be happy to pass these. Our 2 dot, our 5 bam, and our south we're going to get rid of. Let's do our last pass. We got a pair of 1 cracks and a 5 dot. We don't really need any of those. Where we're solidified is in that any like numbers section. We're going to decide between this top line hand or the bottom line hand, depending on kind of how we collect those 8s, with an option to pivot over to one of these dragons hands. Potentially, but I think where we're going to land is down here. So this is a great way to practice at home. If you do this a couple of times a day, especially as that new 2026 card comes out and we're all learning together, this is a great way to learn a card. It's a great way to get really comfortable. The number one question that I get asked is, how can I get better at the Charleston? How can I get better at picking my hand? And this is the way to practice that. You just draw yourself 13 or 14 tiles, and then you do a fake Charleston with yourself. And I tend to stop when I get to a really solid hand. So once I have 6 or more tiles towards a single hand, I will stop that practice and throw my tiles back in and draw again and start again, because that's my goal. If your goal is to get real practice rounds in, you can certainly see this all the way through, finish the Charleston, and then you can take turns out of your bag by drawing a tile, figuring it out how it goes in your hand, and then throwing a tile. And that's a really nice way to practice as well if you want to finish a whole game. But I find that the most useful thing for me is just to get faster at choosing that hand and choosing what to give up during the Charleston. I hope this helps y'all. Drop me any questions down below. Happy Mahjong, y'all.